The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
APM Terminals hosted Black and Caspian Sea Port and Shipping Conference, which united more than 150 representatives from public and private sectors, including shipping, equipment and infrastructure from more than 10 countries. The main emphasis was on increased cooperation and connectivity.
The conference is here to build, to tap into the potential that we see from Central Asia. That is a landlocked area that is not very experienced to sea freight, and then create a seamless route for them to send cargo across the Caspian Sea, across Azerbaijan, the Caucasus, to Poti Port and to Europe and the world. So the middle corridor historically has been very, very strong in this area, but recently its importance has faded away a bit because of the shipping lines, and they are all water routings from Asia typically to Europe and the world.
We've been in Georgia for 25 years. We are actually the longest standing shipping business, foreign shipping business in Georgia. Myself, I've been here for 16 years, and the business environment in Georgia has steadily increased. You can say that having a foreign business, a foreign direct investment in Georgia is a very good environment. Let it be the banking system, the finance system, the tax system, everything has been done to attract foreign investment. Considering our industry, the global industry worldwide is at its peak. It has never been so under the focus of the world, and it has never been so profitable for the worldwide companies involved in shipping, in international transportation. However, Georgia being what in container business, what we call an outport, it has suffered from this global situation because it is a less profitable area. Therefore, for the first time in many years, Georgia has seen a decrease in volume in 2021, which we are all expecting to rebound very quickly this year.
The pension agency has published its March report. According to the document, the net worth of the pension fund assets amounted to 2.23 billion lari. The fund's net income is 34.6% from 2019 to March 2022, while the real income, taking into account inflation, has been 3.15% in the same period. As of the March 2022 report, the pension fund started buying USD, and as of March 31, 4.2% of the investment portfolio was invested in dollars. As of April 6, 2022, 1,265,000 beneficiaries are registered in the pension scheme. The accrued interest as a result of investment activities amounted to 318 million lari. To date, 1,698 people have benefited from the accumulative pension.
Ilya Darchiashvili, the former head of the government administration, has been appointed as the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Georgia. Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili announced on Monday. Darchiashvili replaced David Zalkaliani, who has been appointed Georgia's ambassador to the United States. Ilya Darchiashvili served as Georgia's ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to the Republic of Poland. He has years of experience in diplomatic work. At different times, Ilya Darchiashvili served as First Deputy Minister of Regional Development and Infrastructure, Executive Director of the Municipal Development Fund, while previously he has been engaged in the private sector. Ilya Darchiashvili is a graduate of Tbilisi Ivane Cavakhishvili State University Economic Faculty and holds master's degree in Business Administration, Grenoble School of Management, France. New Minister of Foreign Affairs of Georgia is 41 years old. Darchiashvili served for Bank Republic member of Societe Generale Group on various positions since 2003 till 2012. From 2012 to 2014, he worked in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Georgia and Embassy of Georgia to the Republic of Poland. In 2014-2015, he was the first Deputy Director of Municipal Development Fund and Executive Director of the same fund later. In 2015-2016, he was first Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Regional Development and Infrastructure. In 2016-2017, Ambassador on Special Assignments of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In 2017-2021, Ambassador of Georgia to the Republic of Poland. Since 2021, till becoming the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Georgia, he served as the head of the government administration of Georgia.
The European Union puts more sanctions against Russia, including measures against imports of Russian oil.
So today we are proposing to take our sanctions a step further. We will make them broader and sharper so that they cut even deeper into the Russian economy. This fifth package has 6 pillars. First, we will impose an import ban on coal from Russia worth 4 billion euros per year. This will cut another important revenue source for Russia. Second, a full transaction ban on 4 key Russian banks, among them VTB, the second largest Russian bank. These 4 banks, which we now totally cut off from the markets, represent 23% of market share in the Russian banking sector. This will further weaken Russia's financial system. Third, a ban on Russian vessels and Russian-operated vessels from accessing EU ports. Certain exemptions will cover essentials such as agriculture and food products, humanitarian aid, as well as energy. Additionally, we will propose a ban on Russian and Belarusian road transport operators.
And this is the Checkpoints presented to you by BMG TV team. I'm Elena Guangilashvili, author and host of the show. Our thoughts are still with Ukraine, where Russia still continues its devastating war, and we'll be focusing on Ukraine and how to support Ukrainians in these tough times. We'll be approaching this issue from different angles. You will hear ideas and specific plans coming from academia, business, and more broadly from the general society. People of Georgia are truly united in supporting Ukraine, and what you see now on your screens is just one performance after the atrocities in Bucha that came to daylight and made us all so angry, also full of tears, but also united against Putin and his regime. So we will be opening our program today with a story that our youngest journalist, Maria Mizoria, has pulled together, and she will tell us about donations to Ukraine, and then we will proceed from there.
I for you, you for me, we for you, and all together for the Ukrainian children with special needs. This was the main message of Irak Okhreidzi's inclusive theater performance at the Kot Emarjanishvili Drama Theater at the premiere of a new play, where art fulfilled its mission, a social mission. People united for Ukrainian children with special needs, for whom even living in a peaceful environment is associated with many obstacles. During the war, lives of children with special needs becomes almost unbearable. Children with special needs find it difficult to adapt to society. Their lives in war is hard to even imagine. Our play presents a new game dedicated to Ukrainian children. The troupe, which brings together a total of 25 people, including 15 actors with special needs, started working on the play 7 months ago. Developments in Ukraine have morally obliged the playwrights to help those who need it the most now. The organizers, including Forbes Women Georgia, shared the idea with the general public. The tickets were sold out in 2 days. The center hall was full. Proceeds from the ticket sales will be donated to the Eva Rehabilitation Inclusive Children's Center in Kiev and its beneficiaries. Members of our troupe always express their emotions sincerely. Positive action is always enjoyable for them. We didn't even fully explain the cause as they immediately agreed to partake. As the playwrights say, the most important thing is the joy of children who joined the charity act immediately. I'm very happy that I can make a small contribution to helping them by doing my favorite thing to do. I hope the war will end soon and we will take our play to Ukraine and present it to the audience there. Irak Ochreidze Inclusive Theatre has always been working in the field of inclusive dramatic art since 2015. Its goal from the very beginning was to establish a direction of inclusive art as a standard. Theatre has created new art and responded with dignity to today's latest horrific reality, created by Russia through its invasion of Ukraine. This is the mission of art, to speak more creatively than words ever can.
We have asked the Tbilisi State University what it does to support Ukrainian colleagues and students. As the rector of the university tells us that there is a great effort to support Ukrainians in academia in general, and the TSU makes sure that it firmly stands on the right side of the war that Russia has started in Ukraine, and the war that will lead to a freer world, more united and determined West, and stronger Ukraine in the long run. Thank you, Mr. Rector, for being with us and taking our questions. Today's interview is more about how Tbilisi State University has positioned itself in this devastating war that we see. That's Russia's war in Ukraine, and what is the university doing in order to support Ukrainians, students, professors who might seek shelter in Tbilisi?
First of all, I would like to mention that Tbilisi State University started with expressing a position toward the clearly unbelievable war that Russia started in Ukraine right away, immediately after 24th. Our position is crystal clear that we condemn, of course, Russia's aggression in Ukraine, and we're doing, I believe that we're doing everything that we can in order to support our peers in Ukraine, including students, and we're receiving Ukrainian students. We already have 6 Ukrainian students at Tbilisi State University. They're fully funded, and they're provided with places in our dormitory. Of course, there are tuition waivers, we're having scholarships, etc. Also, we're working with professors, and we're negotiating now with a number of professors from different universities of Ukraine, from Karazin, from Kharkiv, from Kiev Mohyla, Taras Shevchenko, Lviv National University, Mykolaiv, and others. And we're ready to provide teaching positions and research positions for scholars at risk. Not only that, but we also set up a special task force in order to have a consultancy, psychological support, and support in human rights, and it's very important also because we're dealing with massive amount of IDPs throughout Europe, and it's more than 4 million now, I believe, and that's unbelievable. And what is important to have a guidance and to have a counseling, proper one, and we have specialists, and it's important for us because we experienced all of this. And Georgia saw a war, ethnic conflict, everything, and till now 20% of our territory is occupied by Russia. So we know what we are talking about, we know what our trauma, what is experience that our professionals gained during those uneasy days and years for Georgia and fully supporting Ukrainians' strive to freedom, to independence, and we hope that this war will be ended soon and peace will be restored in Europe. What else? We're part of Europe, we're Europeans, and therefore we have to stand our ground, and we're very firm in our decision to support our Ukrainian
yes,
friends.
And this unity in being on the right side, on the white side of this conflict is also among professors, among students, what I can feel from the university as being part of this this university. And we saw a very nice video of our capella singing the national anthem of Ukraine, which was very popular. So thank you for that position. And one more thing I would like to focus is that it was right out of the pandemic, and we still do not know whether this pandemic has ended, whether it's going to take a turn, right? So what kind of uncertainty is before the university and before you personally as running a very large university?
Indeed, it was clearly a huge problem for us, for every university on the globe, I believe. And what's happening with us is we're a big public university, 25,000 big public university compared to sizes of Georgia. It's 25,000 students, of mid-sized university in our terminology. And what was important here that we had to move our courses immediately in online regime, and it was extremely difficult. We had 3,500 courses to be translated to something very different, right? So we did all of it. We did podcasts, we did videos, we used Moodle, we used Teams, we used Zoom, all of it, Skype even, and sometimes Facebook groups. But we tried all possibilities in order to move this machinery immediately to online regime, and we did it in 2 weeks. So I believe it was a great achievement, and I'm very thankful to our professors and students for patience and to hard work. And secondly, what's worth mentioning that we also learn a lot from pandemic, and we're talking constantly with our partners in different countries in different formats, in format of European University Association, be it in other formats, Academia Europaea and others. Whatever we're discussing all the time, we're probably having the same opinion that a lot of good things came with pandemic as well.
So there are some kinds of tendencies that you believe that will stay even after the pandemic goes and we get more peaceful times.
Look, open education resources. We started in Cape Town a couple of decades ago talking about open education resources. But now we have it all in, MIT opened up their resources, and other universities joined to this idea of open education resources. This is one stream. Another was open university concept, open science concept. It's all, coming and intensified during the pandemic, and digital education, distance learning, and elements of distance learning that we're having. The future of quality assurance mechanisms in Europe, it looks like that we will move to micro-credentials. And I believe that we already have quite a number of already experienced parts of it, and we can use it in the future. Secondly, what is happening, thirdly, what is happening that what we learned also that we can work as a teams. And also, when we was producing podcasts or our lectures, etc., it's a capital, clearly. And also, we were working on another dimension, which is digitalizing of our library. We have a huge library consisting of 8 million volumes in our collection, 22 million patents from 60 different countries in our collection. It's one of the biggest library collections worldwide in this respect. And what we're doing now, we're digitalizing our collections in order to create open library, but open not only for students of Tbilisi State University, but public at large. And that's exactly what we're doing, our third mission of university.
Do you see these events unfolding in front of us as the motivation for the universities to gain even bigger role in daily lives, in daily politics, more involvement of the university in shaping some kind of like reforms, so to say, more say of the university in what will be tomorrow?
Sure, because it's one of the main functions of universities, not only research, not only education, but also so-called third mission, service to community. And here universities should play a more vocal role in society and be a place where you can generate a positive societal changes. And that's exactly what universities are doing, I believe, in one way or another. But we have to be more vocal, and I agree with you 100%, and we have to deliver very strong messages to communities that it should be, universities have a different role, but they should be more proactive, especially nowadays. We are discussing this pattern with our partners, with our colleagues from different European universities. In 2 weeks' time, we'll have a wonderful meeting, I believe, with very interesting agenda, where we'll probably agree that universities should play a very certain role in societal development. And especially it was echoed by Commission, by the way, by European Commission. And in the last communication, very interesting one on research and innovation, which was issued in last year, 21, it was in May. Very clear messages were written about the role of universities, about the future of research and innovation sphere in Europe, and also about the cooperation between the different players on the stage. It was 1 year ago, but we wrote a very interesting word there, reciprocal approach. Reciprocal means that you shouldn't have a openness, does not mean that somebody should use you in a way. And connections should be reciprocal, they should be, equal. And partnership should be developed with equal partners. If we're talking about, say, face recognition system or AI, you shouldn't work with North Korea on that, knowing the results, probably, right? And that's exactly what we're thinking behind this reciprocity, which is fixed now as a term. And it was very difficult, by the way, to put it on paper. I was among those who was on behalf of AUA drafting some ideas around this approach. And we had a very hard debate inside the group, strategic group. But finally, we all agreed that yes, we have to say something clearly and loudly, that the world is different and there is a competition of the world. Mm-hmm. And Europe should play, and also what is important is communication, that now we know what our priority number one for European Union, and that's the public health. And what's priority number two, what's priority number three. And we have to unite our ideas and our strength in order to be competitive with China, with others who are really, really big players on the world scene.
Yes, we just heard from the EC, by the way, that they will be working on moving the whole chip industry, semiconductor industry into Europe, and that's also part of the diversification and competition.
Yes, I mentioned priority number one is public health. The second one was digitalization. And that's digital economy in work. That's exactly the place where Europe should play a special role because of competitiveness and all of it. So I do agree. We have to be very careful and very choosy in choosing our partners. And that's something very new, because sometimes you're considering that when we're having an open university approach, open science approach, then reciprocity doesn't really come to the picture. But no, it's a reality that we're facing. And it was done a year ago before the events in Ukraine and the war of Russia in Ukraine.
And my last question, and that's the direction that the Tbilisi State University is working really hard, and that's the that's the connections with the industry, with business community, to kind of like solve those problems that we are hearing on the labor market. What are some news there, and that will be
well, we have this and that, but in STEM direction we're very active, and we already have 4 programs of Tbilisi State University. First time in bigger region we received EBET accreditations, the American Board of Engineering and Technology, for our programs. They are accredited already. We have the process of accreditation of our 2 programs in chemistry and biochemistry done by American Chemical Society. More than that, we're having a representation of American Chemical Society and student chapter of American Chemical Society at our university. Thus, Georgia became 24th country worldwide and 2nd country, I believe, in Europe that is having hosting this wonderful organization. We are hosting Academia Europaea regional hub at our university as well, which means that we are connected with a huge network of European intellectuals and professors. More than 4,800 members of Academia Europaea, 80 Nobel Prize winners are members of Academy of Europe. And also recently we opened a representation of European Public Law Organization, EPLO. And we're hosting EPLO in cooperation with Ministries of Justice and Education and Science. And that's something that we're looking at internationalizing our efforts. We have all in all 24 English language programs at our university, more than 400 English language courses at our university offered to our exchange students. And as we speak, despite the fact that we're online still, we're hosting 71 students from European Union.
That's very nice. All we need now is that Ukraine wins and there is peace in the world, as I understand. And hard work, of course.
Peace will prevail, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last week, Georgi Sakadze and myself, both representing Forbes Georgia, updated you on the support that all the business sectors of Georgia have shown explicitly towards Ukraine. And as promised, these updates will continue. The main topic, the main theme of Forbes Georgia is always on the cover, and it is unchanged since the start of Russia's war in Ukraine. Mariam Adamia will give you the teaser.
$565 billion, such as the infrastructural losses and unearned revenues calculated by the Ministry of Economy of Ukraine at the end of the month. Mariupol and 8 other Ukrainian cities are destroyed, and almost all parts in Ukraine are destroyed or occupied. But we know for sure that Ukraine will defeat enemy, because this nation has already proved that they are not going to give up. It also shattered the biggest myth or paradigm about the military invisibility of the second largest country in the world. So you can read the rest in the author's column of Georgi Sakadze, editor-in-chief of Forbes Georgia. And let's start an overview of the April Forbes Infrastructure Special Edition.
Forbes Infrastructure was interested in what billionaires, familiar to everyone, have learned or not learned and what they think about education. We have counted how many passengers are served by Georgia's 3 international and 2 local airports. Read analysis about their income. If you're wondering what the most high-budget municipalities in Georgia spend their money on, in the Profile Edition we count the 10 richest municipalities as well as their budgets. Given the West's expansion of sanctions on Russia and restrictive plans for Russia's energy sector, it's interesting to look at which country has the largest natural gas reserves. How many million lari worth of construction materials are produced in Georgia? Shotat Qeshelashvili has prepared ratings on the construction sector, which accounts for almost 9% of Georgia's GDP. In opinion column, you will read Anna Sabakhtariashvili's article, Construction as a Road, Infrastructure in Focus. In Forbes' view, the deal of the year is the sale of the company GWP and the entrance of a Spanish company in Georgia. Read more about it in the new edition of Forbes Infrastructure. David Tabidze, Director of the Municipal Development Fund of the Ministry of Regional Development and Infrastructure of Georgia, who has started working in this position a few months ago, answers questions by Forbes Infrastructure. SUPSA, a port on paper and lost revenues for the country. Read another interesting analysis by Merab Adeishvili. In the first edition of Infrastructure 2022, you will read an interview with the builder of ideas, the main respondent, the construction company Gravita, and its CEO. Forbes Infrastructure talked about the history of MAN in Georgia with Beka Beridze, director of Tegera Truck and Bus. The story of the ambitious plans of the Georgian company SAC Cable, told by its CEO and managing partner David Kapanadze. For many more insights into the infrastructure world, read new issue of Forbes Infrastructure.
NFTs have definitely become something that Forbes is keeping its eye on very closely, and we are happy to give you an interview on the new project which involves Georgian and Dutch investors and which can be a new way of doing business.
Thank you so much visiting us at Forbes Georgia office. Great to have you here. You're here for various reasons, but definitely my first question is, talk to me as a child who wants to understand what is NFT and what is Web3, which is maybe the most, popular words last month and last years.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me. Basically, NFT is really essential part of Web3 and blockchain technology. First of all, we got to understand what NFT is, and we hear it daily, we hear it everywhere, and it's really popular word. So I want to see that NFT is not just an art that we see nowadays. NFT is some type of a document of ownership on blockchain, which is placed on blockchain, and it is non-fungible. As the word NFT says, it's non-fungible token, and it cannot be replaced, redo, or any type of some kind of fake publishment thing. And I want to say that NFT has a huge technology behind it that carries essential and endless opportunities for every type of person to publish their knowledge, to get their ownership on something, and in general, have some active digitally and in blockchain.
Could you be so kind to explain us about the company Chapter 25, which is the second reason why you are here with us? We are in charge that this is not 100% Georgian company. It's owned by Georgian investors. But tell us a bit more about the company you represent.
Well, Chapter 25 is multicultural and multi-institution, and it has staff from basically lots of countries around the world. Chapter 25's main reason and main duty in this Web3 space is to be the biggest Web3 accelerator for future NFT products and future crypto services. Our company does the consulting services for big corporations all around the world and takes care to integrate them into the metaverse because attentiveness from those companies is really high, and they all want to transfer to Web3 and in the metaverse especially.
At the same time, correct me if I'm wrong, Chapter 25 is established by Georgian and Dutch investors, am I right?
Yes, Chapter 25 is fully invested by Dutch and Georgian investors, and they carry the main idea of publishing the best and the most used products on Web3, as well as not in this region or Georgia, but in globally and useful for every type of countries and every person.
Worldwide.
Worldwide and involved in metaverse.
Nicholas, could you be so, just tell me why Georgia? I mean, there are definitely some benefits and some advantages for stakeholders and for the management team of Chapter 25. You could choose, I don't know, Singapore, and there are a lot of citizens from various countries who are a part of Chapter 25 already as a staff. But why Georgia?
Well, especially I want to say that lots of countries around the world are not fully ideal places for publishing your company as an NFT or Web3 accelerator, but Georgia, with its geographical location and its great human resources team, is fully capable of becoming the best and one of the best companies all around the world. It's also I want to emphasize that lots of companies such as FTX, the number 2nd crypto exchange all around the world, has established their interest towards us. On the meeting, which was several days ago with FTX co-CEO Ryan, we talked about how Georgia can become one of the biggest multicultural.
You're talking about the FTX exchange, we just visited on the official base, meeting with the Prime Minister of Georgia and other officials.
Yeah, I'm talking about exactly that.
Yes.
And we had a meeting.
Very good.
It was really interesting meeting, and we discussed many stuff about crypto, Web3, and how Georgia can become one of the most important crypto exchange hub all around the world. So basically, Georgia with its own those attributes is really interesting and comforting place for foreign investors to establish their companies and their places here.
Services provided by Chapter 25. You mentioned some of them, but what are the advantages and what are the actual services after this interview? There might be some interest addressed.
Other than doing just consulting for other companies and other people, Chapter 25 is for now mainly focused on establishing and producing great NFT projects. So we started with Benchmark NFT Projects, which is the first one that I can talk to you about. It's pretty confidential, but I can just talk with you about some public information that is really interesting. The first project is some type of really luxurious club, and each holders of this NFT, our main goal is to distribute in real life utility and think that when you're a holder of certain NFT, it will be used in real life and have many use cases. So our main goal is to create a type of luxurious club, and it's really great to just plan an interview after we publish this project. So it will be better to talk about when we have the ready and already published product between us and discuss.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Talking of the 21st century right there in that interview. And new ways of doing business could only help in these turbulent times full of injustice and uncertainty. Here are some spillover effects on Georgia already. The Georgian economy is expected to slow to 3.5% in 2022 because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, after promising double-digit growth in 2021, according to a new Asian Development Bank ADB report. In Asian Development Outlook ADO 2022, the bank's flagship annual economic publication, ADB projects Georgia's gross domestic product growth to recover slightly to 5% in 2023 due to increased internal and external demand, fueled by faster credit growth, with exports facilitated by structural reforms to trade and connectivity.
After a 6.8% contraction in 2020, we saw quite a rebound last year, 10.5% economic growth. This year, it looks like we'll have to taper expectations to about 3.5% as trade and remittances take a hit from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This is affecting many economies in the region, and Georgia is going to see this in the form of diminished tourism, diminished exports, and diminished remittances. We think there are a few things that the Georgian government can do to counter the impact of the conflict in Ukraine. One is to continue their commitment to fiscal consolidation. After 2 years of expanded expenditure to counter the impact of the pandemic, now we're seeing a need to prioritize very carefully the expenditures. Second, investment in urban areas in line with decentralization. The government passed a decentralization policy in 2019, and we believe that this is important for improving service quality in the regions and ensuring balanced growth. And a third priority would be to invest in social sectors. If we want to have an economy in which people are participating, then we need to ensure high quality education that reaches all parts of the country.
Inflation is forecast to slow to 7% in 2022 and 4% in 2023. The current account deficit is projected to widen to equal 10% of GDP in 2022, with a forecast rise in oil prices before narrowing to 7.5% in 2023. Exports are projected to increase by 12.1% in 2022 and 14.9% in the year after. As economic sanctions cut growth in the Russian Federation, remittances are forecast to decrease to 1.8 billion USD in 2022 and 1.7 billion USD year after. The ADB report highlights the need for Georgia to strengthen subnational public finances that will enable more efficient and equitable provision of services, including complex services that are critical for large population centers centers, water supply and sanitation systems in secondary cities and towns, and healthcare, education and social protection for disadvantaged populations. Fiscal decentralization would improve service delivery and support growth, ADB believes. Those of us who are working and striving hard for the European future of this country are ready to pay the price for peace and freedom and the world free of Putin's regime. And now back to the essentials for growing Georgia's economy fast forward, and that's definitely the FDI and the know-how that foreign investment brings to our country. Georgi Sakadze has worked hard for the checkpoints, and here's another issue for discussion that his interview with Farouk Almoyadi, representing the Gulf Hotels Group, brings on today's show's agenda.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Almoyad, so happy to have got you in our office.
Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you. Could you be so kind to tell me where and when the idea of Georgia has been created in Bahrain?
No, actually the idea is new because in the last, after the corona, there was a lot of losses in the hotel industry, and the opportunity comes to get new assets to manage, which is came to Mr. Bouzizi, who is our director and also in charge of business development, had a meeting with
local representative
here, and I think they offered to see the hotel that Mr. Nadari has, which is attached to an aqua park, which created a lot of interest.
Okay, very good. Mr. Bouzizi told us a lot and about his period while he was a CEO in Bahrain.
He is a stalwart of the hotel business because he was the first Bahraini to manage a big hotel.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So he was, sorry, you have to cut this off.
Yes.
He was really sent by the Gulf Hotel during, God rest his soul, our chairman, Mr. Ahmed Kano. He said, why don't we develop Bahraini people? So we made a program and we sent 7 trainees to Switzerland for training for 2 years. They all came back and took
their positions
in management after training in the hotel. And Mr. Bouzizi was chosen as the first Bahraini to manage a big hotel in Bahrain.
That was the idea how the Gulf Hotel Group was created, am I right?
No, the Gulf Hotel was created before this. The Gulf Hotel was created between Gulf Air, which was then called Gulf Aviation, and a group of Bahraini businessmen, Yatim, Kanu al-Muayyad, and that is how it developed at the beginning, because Gulf Air was booming then, and it was owned by 4 countries. So it was the only airline in the Gulf then. So in '67, they decided to have a luxury hotel in Bahrain, which is its headquarters.
The existing one.
And that is how the Gulf Hotel came to be born.
But now you are already thinking about the expansion.
Yes.
Expansion.
Actually, we have 4 hotels managed in Bahrain.
Yes.
And we have 1 hotel in Dubai. And we have 1 hotel we are managing in Zanzibar through a group of Gulf investors. So that gives us, and they're all very successful, thank God. So we have the 50-year experience of managing hotels.
Mr. Chairman, at the same time, while expansion, you are looking for other opportunities, as you have mentioned.
Yes.
This has been prevailed and much more exhausted after COVID period, when everything was suspended. Could you be so kind to tell me what are the ambitions of the Gulf Hotel Group? I'm talking about business ambitions, of course. What to cover?
We look at every opportunity, because even before COVID, we were looking at opportunities in Saudi, in Oman, And, you get leads, business leads, and we send our people from management to have a look and talk. And there is a lot, of course, out of 10 you get 1 or 2.
Yeah, sure.
As leads, come from all over the place.
What are the first impressions about Georgia?
Well, I like the country. It has a lot of nice people, which is very important for tourism. And the country has, of course, lots of water and nice weather. And in summer, I believe the weather is very pleasant. So it could be a great opportunity for tourists to come to spend a week or 2 here if we give them the right package with an airline and stay. And this is the most important thing, that people feel they're traveling in safe hands. And of course, the Gulf Hotel is well known in the Gulf area, so we are safe to travel with us.
Very good.
Of course, a lot of Gulf people used to go to Lebanon and Syria, which are now out of bound, so they'll probably come here.
Good. At the same time, during the conversations, you've touched various times a wider picture about the potential of Georgia becoming a hub of the region due to its location and things like that. Do you see this potential here still?
I think your Georgia airline should be a hub, making Tbilisi a hub for reaching Europe, reaching Africa, because this is what Turkish airline does all the time. Turkish airline, most people in the Gulf, if they want to go to Africa, they either go to Dubai or they go to Istanbul. If they want to reach Europe, of course, they mostly go to Dubai. So you are very close proximity to Istanbul, and you could be a force in this field. Yani.
Thank you. And also, my pre-last question is about your meetings here. You had the meetings not only with your partners, with whom you already signed the memorandum of understanding and agreement, but also with governmental officials. How all these go, and what are the prominence of your meetings?
Well, every relationship starts with one step. So you have to follow up on these things. And as I say, sometimes 10 contacts produce 2 results or 3 results. So we're hoping, if we have a presence here, to pursue it in other fields, in Georgia. As I said, Bahrain and Georgia are only 2 hours away, 2.5 hours. So it's not really a long distance by plane. So we hope to develop that in the future.
How is Bahrain doing nowadays after COVID period, which touched everybody and all the countries? It doesn't matter countries rich, poor, or middle income.
Well, of course, 2020 was a very bad year because everything was practically closed. It was a shock to the world. But 21 became a much better year, recovering from this shock. And it looks like 22 is even much better because we have really vaccinated maybe 80% of the population.
Very good of you.
So the numbers of cases are declining continuously. And last week, the government of Bahrain and the Ministry of Health released all the restrictions on, conferences, weddings. So I think 22 will be an excellent year of recovery. And the government is well aware and really pushing the private sector to develop more and to... we are building now in Bahrain the biggest exhibition center in the Middle East. So that will attract a lot of conferences. And of course, the Prime Minister, His Highness Prince Salman, is really developing Bahrain to be a tourist attraction also.
Good luck to Bahrain and to your plans in Georgia as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
And that's basically all for today. I will be leaving you off with what we have opened the checkpoints, and that's how to support Ukraine. This time we will be focusing on the business community of Ukraine. EBA Georgia and Ukraine join me in an in-depth interview on current challenges and future prospects of doing business in Ukraine. Don't forget to follow us on bm.g and forbes.g and watch the checkpoints.
Okay, dear guests, thank you for being with us and taking our questions in these tough times. Anna, my every interview for Ukraine goes with these words, Slava Ukraini. Yes, definitely. And now we can start. So my first question comes to you, Anna. What it is doing business during the war? What is the condition of business community in Ukraine right now?
Thank you so much, first of all, for the invitation, for the opportunity to speak. I may tell you that business now in Ukraine is pretty challenging, but nevertheless, having said so, I can confirm that a lot of businesses manage to continue their business operations. In case they are not, of course, under the risk of being bombarded. Actually, there are some businesses which did not manage to continue, of course, but nevertheless, majority are trying to adjust. The most agile businesses which have to continue their operations are belonging to critical infrastructure. And here we are talking about banking sector, here we are talking communication business and logistics. They have to continue working in order to support or sustain the lives and operationability of the communities. The rest, it depends. In case they can move online, they are doing so. In case they can move their physical presence to other regions which are not in the risk zone, it is also good and it's possible to do business at least from there. Those ones who are not able to do that, obviously they are under threat and they are really in challenging situation. Also, when it comes to the key problems of the businesses which are encountering, they are primarily affecting logistics. Logistics, like broking of different consumer chains, logistical chains, and as a result, it is also impacting the purchasing power of people, which in its turn also impacts the business. So all in all, it's to conclude my small intervention, I can tell you that now it's difficult to make business. Companies are trying to adjust. First weeks were extremely difficult. I would say they were shocking to people. But after 2 or 3 weeks, even businesses, they started to readjust themselves to the new normality and try to find the way forward.
Good to hear that, Anna. To be more specific, like what would you identify as the main, 3 to 5 main needs at this point that could ease the situation that you have just described?
When you ask businesses what do they need in order to function properly, the first answer is we need to restore peace, because peace is needed to continue proper operations. Because in some cases, for example, when businesses were owning quite a substantial real estate or some facilities, just in some cases, they just simply destroyed, because completely with missiles, they were completely out of the operations. And obviously, you cannot actually restore those operations in the risk that they will be again destroyed in case the war is going to be continued. So that's why the number one priority, both for business and also for the country, for people of Ukraine, is actually to make peaceful back in place. This is first. The second is, in case now the war is being continuing, obviously the second thing which is needed is we need to restore properly the logistics. Now we hear from time to time that it's been restored, but nevertheless, it's also one of the key things which the government, together with business, can somehow develop. Third, and I would say this is also competing with the second one, this is communication. Communication should be done in place between government and business, and I should sincerely thank the government of Ukraine, the president, his team, for this constant communication and on daily basis conversations with different players, including business. Because nowadays this is increasingly important, actually, to sustain proper, I would say, information flow, so that government can know what business is thinking about this or another situation, and also we need to understand what government plans for. So that's why communication is the key. Fourth, it's necessary to have proper access to financing. In addition to that, it should be also easy rules of the game in operating in Ukraine, which is also underway. And we see simplification of tax rules. Also, the speed of taking decisions on governmental level is really amazing. So that's why, it needs to be kept in this way, and then hopefully it will be kept also on when the war is going to be over. So this kind of stuff is really essential, because proper functioning of business means proper functioning of people, because some businesses have really not so much of financial sustainability in order to sustain their employees for a long period of time. So that's why we need somehow to help businesses to function.
Does it help to be part of community, because that's a bigger community, right? It's you're represented by Ukraine. We have here John that's representing IBA Georgia. Does that help to be part of a larger community at this point of hardship?
We were also the first week of the war. We were also thinking what should be our role and what should be our mission in that new reality. And of course, we were also trying to find that new way. And we understood that yes, it's really helpful to a certain extent to be part of the broader community, because then you can exchange insights with other players, and you can see what are the life hacks, you can see access to proper information, you can exchange information with others. So that's why, at least from our side, we decided to make on regular basis polls, surveys, in order to understand what businesses are thinking about. Then second, we also relaunched, I would say, redesigned our previous platforms, which were functioning in a peaceful world. Second Chance Bank, which was initially designed as a sustainability platform, but nowadays it is a platform for exchange of needs and propositions in the military reality. And it works also pretty well. It's like an announcement dashboard for those ones who need something and those ones who are proposing something to the government or to the businesses, to the volunteers, to whoever needs actually any support in the military terms. So this kind of stuff is possible when the broader community is functioning. So that's why obviously I think that everyone needs to find its niche in the new normality, and it seems to me both ourselves and simple businesses will have the opportunity to cooperate, even if the time is really challenging.
Thank you, Anna, for that answer. John, let me come to you with the next question. What is Georgia thinking about this devastating war, and what mechanisms does Georgia have to actually support Ukraine?
Thank you very much, Elaine, for inviting me to this panel. And I'm very proud to be here together with Anna, the Executive Director of the European Business Association in Ukraine. First of all, I would like, on behalf of EBA Georgia, the Board of Directors and all its members, again condemn Russian military aggression in Ukraine and express our full solidarity. The whole Europe stands with Ukraine, and we want to show that deep solidarity we share with Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. Of course, we are also shocked what we see the last days, the images. And on that part also, our task, we are ready to support EBA Ukraine as the largest community and business association in Ukraine and strengthen the cooperation as for the associated trio members, Ukraine, Georgia and Moldova. From EBA Georgia, I can tell already that a lot of companies supported Ukraine, now the first supply of refugee goods. So I have to mention here Cristal, ProCredit Bank, GPI Holdings, and we are actively advertising for the EBA members to show which kind of support they're giving now, that we can also show that we are one community and working together with the business community. In my view, what EBA Georgia and Ukraine would be needed the most, actually, even more than today, would be to, when rebuilding of Ukraine, to make sure that the business can, as Anna was mentioning perfectly, the business to continue. There is a horrible war going on, and let's hope that this is as fast done as possible, but then it's going to be the rebuilding. And of that place, I think EBA Georgia could take a lead together with other EBAs in the region, Moldova also, to make sure to give the full support for the Ukrainian business to start up. That's it.
John, Anna was mentioning that, in these tough times, it is essential to have like close cooperation with the government, so that to know what kind of steps to take. What's in your case for the EBA Georgia to be effective? Does it also need that kind of tight cooperation and communication with the government, and what's there?
Yeah.
Tell us.
I would first say I have to thank EBA Ukraine, because they are really the biggest association, European business association in the region. And of course, we always also looked at how they are proceeding in their country. And Anna was telling it perfectly. So business surveys, this is regularly done. And actually, EBA Georgia also has a business survey just done that we will publish in the next couple of weeks. We have still meetings on that part. What is the feeling of European businesses in Georgia? There's actually an idea, but I have to admit I didn't discuss it with Anna or EBA Moldova also, that I would like to combine the survey results and see what is the difference according to the situation on the surveys, what is the impact. A very important thing, what the EBA stands for, is evidence-based public-private dialogue. I cannot stress it out more. Every meeting we're having, I'm telling, we need to have public-private dialogue, the business community with governments in every country, and it has to be evidence-based. It has to be done with correct policy making. There should be position papers produced afterwards with a common goal, how to improve the business. Now, very technical, but Anna mentioned there logistics, and I'm in the logistics. And I even have also an office in Ukraine. Gosselin is also in the Ukraine. I know the situation with logistics. This is a very big problem to get logistics, especially now in this war situation, done. But even afterwards, I think in the future also we should think in future ways also how to improve logistics to make sure it goes easier. Now I know a lot of businesses are avoiding Ukraine and Russia because of the war. It doesn't mean that we have to figure out now new transport routes, because that's not correct. The business should be as before it is, but we can strengthen it. And we can strengthen it how? By, as business, pushing our governments to make sure to easify the paperwork and transit going through the countries, to make sure that there is a good connection between all European countries and Eastern Partnership countries.
Thank you, John. My next question is about doing business with Russia. We see that because of this unprecedented international sanctions. Companies are leaving Russian markets, big companies, large players. Is there really, because both of you are in business, is it really a big reputational damage to those businesses who continue doing business with Russia and also seeking some new opportunities? And do you see such businesses that might be seeking new relations and new opportunities of doing business on Russian market? Anna, I will start with you.
Yes, it's a very sensitive topic, of course, for many businesses in Ukraine, because we have international companies, for example, which are operating not only in Ukraine, but also in other areas, including Russia. And for them, there is always a choice, either to continue business as usual in Russia, or somehow try to think also other human ways, because you cannot just pick up and select money when people are being killed. So we are not talking about just simple politics. We are just talking about country who is killing actually other citizens of other country, and the crimes are really enormous. And we are all seeing them because they are all broadcasted on international TVs. So that's why, it's from the human point of view, it's necessary to make a choice on what side you're going to take. But having said so, I can tell you that a number of international companies are really thinking to withdraw from Russian Federation, but it's not that easy as well. So that's why, they all have their own consultations inside their companies. Some have left already the Russian Federation market, but some are still in the process. Though I can tell you that in Ukraine, those companies which are doing business in Russia, they are very toxic, and their reputation has been damaged. But again, Ukrainian government is also thinking how to, punish, so to say, in normal way, how to push those companies who are still in Russia to withdraw from Russia. And it's not only about Ukraine, it's about the restoring peace in the world. This is the task which is behind that, because our government and many players, Ukrainian businesses who think that it's not necessary to continue business in Russia, they are simply thinking in this way because it's necessary to stop funding military machine of Russian Federation. They are just simply going about actually humanity and crimes against humanity and this kind of issues, which are far higher than just simple money terms. So we'll see how it will go. Currently, I explained you the situation, and currently, as I said, companies will try to think how to swiftly or smoothly somehow reconsider their presence on the market of Russian Federation and still having presence in Ukraine and other countries of the region. So it seems to me that now we have just a huge hit to the global operations, different firms, because in interventions or break of different logistics chains in Ukraine and Russia also means huge impact on the global situation, especially when it comes to the food industry. So these seemingly minor things, although now it's simply not minor, they really change a lot the global situation. And let's hope that the war is going to be over in Ukraine, and it will be not expanding further, because having experienced the war in Ukraine, I can tell you this is really terrible, and I've not experienced just part of those things which have been broadcasted yesterday in Bucha and Irpin. So that's why it's necessary to understand that even minor things being felt in wartime, they are terrible. But we are not talking about even more terrible things, which I would say they are really hitting lives of people.
Yeah, I don't even know what to tell you when you are talking about this devastating war, because those 5 days in August that Georgia has experienced were so terrible, and now we see it's more than a month that Ukraine is in this devastating situation. So it's awful. It's awful, and when you think that it's 21st century outside, and this should not be happening, definitely. John, I'm coming to you because I can understand, when business is doing business in Ukraine and at the same time, for example, doing business in Russia, and that's definitely a reputational damage there. How is it perceived in Georgia, in our country?
Yeah. It's a very difficult question to answer, and I think Anna already told it perfectly, but I want to stress it out. We are a business association. We have to watch out here. The businesses did not cause a war. It is politicians who causes war. So I fully agree that the big company says we're withdrawing in Russia. I fully agree with economic sanctions, but I would not agree that we have to attack now individual companies because they, for example, are busy withdrawing but need some time because they have some contracts to fulfill also, that they need time to this one. I'm sure, I'm not sure if I can tell that, but I think Russia will be punished at some point economically, and that was the strength because of business, because at the end, economic sanctions seems the biggest tool. And we as a business association, we're representing the business. Again, I would not go now directly to say to the companies, you need to make a decision now. I would say the companies need to follow international sanctions, regulations. We, again, fully support Ukraine on that part, but we also have to make sure that the business has some time to adapt to the new reality.
I fully understand that, but is this the moment to think about diversification? And one thing on the global, for example, business landscape, one positive thing out of this truly devastating, awful war, could it be that to see that Russia is not doing business? Russia as a state is always doing politics, and that's to my opinion, that's what we see here. Do you think that could be the motivation to think of other ways, to think of more diversification? Because we see certain decisions, right? For example, EC talking openly of taking the coal chip industry to the Europe, right? We see what's happening on the gas, Russian gas, and energy supplies. Do you think that could be the motivation to think differently of doing business with Russia?
If I may answer this one, I don't think that's a decision. I think this will be a consequence.
I can tell you from my side, it seems to me that nowadays we are all, of course, thinking about diversification and thinking differently. But the problem is that we are also challenged by the risk of instability, global instability, and this uncertainty, which is not only in Ukraine but elsewhere. It seems to me does not allow a plan for long term in any possible way. Because nowadays, for example, we are all going through turbulence on European continent with those things which you have already mentioned. But it is not yet understandable how it will continue further. Will it develop? Will the war develop, or will it be stopped? And in this kind of situation, it's very difficult, it seems to me, for businesses and for governments to plan anything. So that's why, it seems to me the new motto for the current reality is plan for one day ahead. So because there is no visibility, it's like, driving the plane in the fog. It's not possible to make any possible, diversified decision because you simply need to secure security in the short term. Of course, I would be happy for those businesses which can plan long term, in this uncertain time. But I'm not sure that there is many of such businesses at the current state. So
yes,
obviously,
I would definitely agree with that, Anna. But what I was thinking of is that can it be kind of like a part of the mindset now that doing a lot of business with Russia means giving it the power to at some point do what it did in Georgia, what it does in Ukraine.
In this way, I can tell you the following. Just recently, we also had a meeting in Brussels with representatives of different business associations, and there was also a question on that. What will be with energy market in Europe? Will that be a possibility to survive without energy products from Russia? And, of course, everybody was thinking that it's difficult, it's challenging, but the point is, at some point, it will be necessary to make this choice. And I'm sure that Europe, at least at the current state of play, will find the way how to make it done. I'm personally believe in Europe. I think that there are plenty of smart people here, lots of technologies, and also still quite a substantial number of developed countries in the world which are in peace. So yes, it's at the current stage. I think that there is a possibility to find other way of doing things and other way of sustainable development, even removing energy things of Russia from the global arena. So that's why it needs, of course, it requires certain actions. It requires more, I would say, involvement, more ideas, and another way of thinking, as you say. But it's possible. It's possible. I sincerely believe in that.
I would add on that one, like Anna was telling also, that actually our businesses, the European Business Association, is supporting European businesses, but also we're facilitating the trade between Georgia, Ukraine, and Europe. And I would add that the companies I've met here, and I'm sure in Ukraine the same, that they have European values, European standards. We all belong to the European family. And I think that is also one of the steps that I think is important for business, that this application process for European membership is facilitated, because that's actually in your question you had, will give predictability for businesses and to change also their vision, diversify their business also more. This will help a lot for the businesses to be having business plans every year that they can make if they are part of that family.
Yes, and my last question, and thank you for your time, definitely will be, what is your main message? What should be the main takeaway from our viewers? John, I will let you start, and I will end with Anna.
But the takeaway, I would say, as from the start, I said, I'm so proud here having an interview together with Anna from the European Business Association Ukraine. We, as the European Business Association Georgia, fully support and want to keep on supporting. But also, I will communicate to organize some B2B networking wherever we can support, especially in the rebuild of Ukraine, the rebuild of the European businesses, the businesses in Ukraine who are members of European Business Association there, that we are fully support, and we're looking forward to really strengthen these ties between our associations also.
Anna, the last word is yours.
I can really support what John is saying. Of course, definitely we can cooperate, and there is always room for broader cooperation, and I think this is the time of doing that. But messages which I wanted to conclude this meeting with are the following. First, businesses will find their way, because businesses are pretty pragmatic and they will find their way to adjust. That's what we are seeing now. But the key message is we all, the whole world, the whole democratic normal world, should try to make everything possible that the war in Ukraine should be stopped, that the peace is restored. This is the main message, because I guess that the war in Ukraine, war in Europe, is not necessary in the 21st century. So that's why, you know, from the human point of view and from the business point of view, from the economy point of view, obviously the whole world should do everything possible effort in order to stop the war in Ukraine. And then it will be the way for new development.
Let me interrupt you before you end your... Are economic sanctions one step towards ending this war? Do you see economic sanctions as a tool for ending this war?
It is one of the tools, but nevertheless, at least in Ukraine, they don't think that it is sufficient so far at this stage. What we are talking about is about Ukrainian businesses, international businesses in Ukraine, and what Ukrainian economy is now doing through. I can tell you that obviously sanctions will work, but what Ukraine needs also from the world, from Europe, from US and other countries, is actually equipment, you know, weapons in order to stop the war in Ukraine. This is something which has been asking for government of Ukraine, and this is something which people in Ukraine are in need for, because now we are talking about physical, you know, physical security of people, and this is something which needs to be back in place. And this could be done also one part by sanctions, but it will be a more lengthy way for restoring things. And second part, in parallel, it should be actually equipping with weapons Ukrainian military forces, because they are simple, you know, fantastic heroes, and we are all in Ukraine are really relying on them and very much respect them and very much wish them good luck and really much strength and force in order to restore peace in our country and in the whole democratic world.
Let me join you in that, definitely with all my heart and soul, and hope. I'm sure Ukraine will win, but let's hope that it will be sooner than when we anticipate. Thank you so much for being with us and talking to the Czechs.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.